英国新首相今天宣布呢，废除卢旺达的计划，然后意味着将释放数千的非法移民，因为这些关押在非法移民关押在遣送中心有数千人，本来要送去卢旺达，现在全部要释放。然后还谴责英国警察抓了太多不重要的、不需要抓的人，然后造成了监狱人满为患。监狱里面呢关了无数的不必要关的人。目前呢，英国监狱呢是实施提前6个月释放，就是刑期快要满了，再提前6个月给你释放。然后卢旺达的计划肯定是已经被完全的废除，航班也取消了。然后全部的被关押的非法移民将要陆陆续续的从遣送中心里面释放出来，因为这些都送不去卢旺达，只能换出来的哈。以下是新闻发布会的内容哈。
Thanks, Prime Minister. Can I just go back to the question of prisons? Your Prisons Minister, James Timpson, said precisely this. We are addicted to punishment. People are in prison who should not be, i.e. they're given a prison sentence and they shouldn't be. Do you agree, yes or no? And are you going to continue with the early release of prisoners? Very quickly, Rwanda scheme, is that dead and buried?
That's three, Kate, in one. Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite, because everybody has worked out, particularly the gangs that run this, that the chance of ever going to Rwanda was so slim, less than 1%, that it was never a deterrent. The chances were of not going and not being processed and staying here, therefore, in paid-for accommodation for a very, very long time. It's had the complete opposite effect, and I'm not prepared to continue with gimmicks that don't act as a deterrent. In relation to early release, look, we are, as I've actually said before the election, we're going to have to deal with the problem we've got with prisons. There is no overnight solution to the problem. We've got too many prisoners, not enough prisons. That's a monumental failure of the last government. On any basic view of government, to get to a situation where you haven't got enough prison places for prisoners, doesn't matter what your political stripe, that is a failure of government. It's a failure of government to instruct the police not to arrest. This has not had enough attention in my view, but it's what happened. We will fix that, but we can't fix it overnight, and therefore it is impossible to simply say we will stop the early release of prisoners, and you wouldn't believe me if I did say it. In relation to prisons and the people that are there, look, I've sat in the back of I don't know how many criminal courts and watched people process through the system on an escalator to go into prison. And I've often reflected that many of them could have been taken out of that system earlier if they'd had support. And that is why what we want to do with our youth hubs and on knife crime is really, really important, because I want to reduce crime. I want to ensure less people are going into crime. There is a point of intervention, I think, in the early teenage years of children, young people, I think particularly boys in my experience, where we can reach in and ensure some of them do not get on that escalator. It's difficult, it's hard work, it can be done, but if you can pull people out before they get on the escalator that ends up in imprisonment, that means that they have more productive lives and that they don't have the victims of their offences. Knife crime would be an example. It is a clear priority for me on knife crime, and we will begin that work very quickly on knife crime to reduce it. But one way, there are a number of ways that are included in that, but one way is to reach out and stop people getting into knife crime in the first place. Difficult to do, but I'm determined to do it, because otherwise you and I will all sit at the back of courts watching the same people being processed over and over and over again into our prisons, where it costs a fortune to keep them there, and doesn't have the same effect on reducing crime that we could have if we intervened at an earlier stage. Thank you, Kate.